So today we're going to finish the topic that João was completing on 726. That's the law of preservation. And just to recap what we are talking about here with preservation is instinct. And all those things that we're going to deal today here deals with matter, okay? The instinct of preservation of the physical instrument that we have. And we do that to allow us to go through all the hardship that we face throughout our existence in order to progress. And that goes for us individualizing intelligent principle, spirits, as well as for the intelligent principle, those who have not yet reached the level of the individual spirits as we humans are. So the same apply here for from the bacteria to the vegetables to to the animals, to the whole animalia kingdom. We covered last week, and we're going to finish today, voluntary deprivations and mortification. And we read that we are much better off using our energy, our time, putting yourself at the service of our brothers and sisters, than going to self-mutilation and any exercise that hurts ourselves and does not produce any good to anyone is contrary to the law. On question 704, we read that we should do what is useful, or should retain with us what's useful, and everything that is not useful is superfluous, and anything that is superfluous, it's not good. Therefore, self-deprivation, the idea of hurting yourself, even if you're trying to honor or trying to please God, you're doing exactly the contrary, because you're going against the natural laws created by God. If you're going to sacrifice yourself to produce something good to others, then yes, then it's noble. João used last week the common example of a mother who rather go hungry to provide food for the children. That's a very common example, and that's the good one. But you can think of many kinds of sacrifices. Someone who goes out in the field, sacrificing their social life and everything else to study something that brings progress to humankind. Someone who devotes themselves in a laboratory, just think that they'll be able to find anything, a vaccine that will help humankind. And perhaps choose not to have a family, choose to spend hours and hours in a lab, sometimes even getting sick, being exposed to chemicals and things like that. As long as this individual is doing, not seeking fortune, not seek to put his name in history, but because he seeks to help humankind, that is not noticeable, and that is noble, and that is pleasing to anyone. The idea of pleasing God, of course, God is not going to be pleased or angry. God is God. But since we don't have any other words, we use a pleasing God over here, knowing very well that God is God. And then pleasing is for us, being angry is for us, but it's in accordance with his laws that is meant for our happiness. Okay? And of course, mortifications also falls in the same things that I had already mentioned. Today, we're going to continue on 726. Please, Philip.
Yes. If the suffering of this world elevates us, depending on how we bear it, are we elevated by that which we voluntarily create for ourselves? Need to elevate it so I can continue to read.
João has control.
Me, no.
No, João is controlling it.
Oh,
I cannot raise it. You can only be elevated by natural suffering because they come from by God. Voluntary suffering is worthless when it is not useful to others. Can you read now, Philip, on the top?
I'm looking for where you just ended.
On the top, all the way to the top.
Is that start with, do you think?
Yes.
If you could bring it down just to
I
here.
cannot bring it down.
I can't read the top line. Oh boy.
Do you think that those who shorten their lives by superhuman hardships
are as practiced by bronzes, fakirs, and fanatics of various religious groups advance their progress by doing so? They should spend their time focused on doing good for their fellow human beings. They should clothe the naked, comfort those who cry, work for the disabled, and deprive themselves for the sake of the unfortunate. And then their lives will be useful and pleasing to God. When you experience voluntary suffering for yourself alone, it is selfishness. When you suffer for others, it is charity. These are the commandments of Christ.
Okay, I think we pretty much covered all this. Abuses over here refers to Buddhist monks, those who put themselves in solitude, in a temple, in a monastery, and spend their lives in trying to rise themselves up above humankind. And if they're doing that, they're pretty much wasting their time because we rise ourselves up. We accelerated our progress, placing ourselves to service to others. And all sacrifice that we can do that is justifiable is the one, again, that we take from us to provide to others for the benefit of others, being it food, being it time, being social life, being forming family, and many other things that we can think of. Of course, when you read over here, you can only be elevated by natural suffering because they come from God. You're going to read it here as becomes by God laws, right? I.e., you can think of the law of cause and consequence, which are natural process in our life. Law of progress, go to trials. It's natural that, again, using our academic progress, once you learn how to count, then you learn how to put those numbers, those things together, and you learn to add, and then you learn how to take things apart, and you learn to subtract. And those are little trials in life. And then you're gonna learn how to divide, put one number on top of the other, and those are fractions now, and those are trials, things that we need to go through in life in order to better ourselves. If we drop the ball and choose not to learn the things that we need to learn, you're gonna fail the class, gonna have to do it again. Then you have an atonement on your hand to deal with, right? This is a natural process. So it's not the God causes it. It's the God's natural law that is meant to our happiness, that is meant to lead us, to keep us in the path of progress that demands those stages of suffering that we go through. And again, somebody's gonna say it, I'm gonna go ahead. Suffering is extremely relative. What someone sees as a suffering is basically nothing for someone else, or is an opportunity that someone else will see as an opportunity. Suffering generates progress. Once you decide that you didn't want to study that year and you forget about mathematics, I don't need this, I better watch soccer and repeat, and you don't pass that class, you learn a lesson. or you should learn a lesson. And if you don't learn a lesson, you're going to repeat it again. And eventually, you'll learn that lesson. You're going to see all your friends at your age 3, 4 years ahead of you, and you're still in a classroom as now as a teenager with a bunch of little kids. It's suffering. Eventually, you'll suffer enough, they'll decide to do the right thing. It's a choice that we make. So it's not that suffering does indeed elevates us, but it's a choice that we make. We don't need to go to the suffering. Okay, we need to go to the trials. We need to go fractions and then trigonometry and then calculus, but this is not suffering. This is opportunities of growth. If you choose to see it as suffering, you're just hurting yourself, but you're still gonna have to go through regardless, right? Yeah, that's it here. 27. Yeah, questions? Okay, 27.
Since we should not create voluntary suffering for ourselves that serves no purpose for others, should we protect ourselves from that which we can anticipate and that which threatens us? The instinct of self-preservation has been given to all beings to serve as a safeguard against danger and suffering. Chastise your spirit and not your body. Mortify your pride and stifle the selfishness that like a snake devours your heart. By doing this, you will do more for your development than any amount of mortifications, which are no longer appropriate for the time period in which you are living.
So the answer is no, right? This is a big no over there. Living in the world that we live, we are going to be exposed to several challenges. We're going to be exposed to a lot of danger. Nature provides us instincts to avoid those dangers, to recognize those dangers. Simplest things as the sense of smell. Sense of smell can save you from a lot of trouble. You get in the house and you smell gas, you should be smart enough not to put on the light, right? Just get out and call the system. There's alarm, the alarm went on. Nature provided to you. You walk on the road and you start to smell of, let's say you go buy something, a piece of meat, gets home, head home, open the package and it smells not fresh, you should not consume it. Nature is providing that way, and nature provide all tools necessary for us to avoid the dangers that we meet along the way. If we choose to take chance and get involved with things that with high risk, high probability of injury or even death, is a choice that we make, right? But then you have to deal with the consequences of it. Okay, but even in those cases, with human intelligence and tremendous amount of instinct, there is a way to go through those risks that we took and still come out, because we want to live as long as possible, because it's staying here another day provides us another opportunity to learn something useful that you can carry to us, to make amends with someone in the very last minute that will avoid us a lot of pain and agony back in the spiritual world. And essentially, in order to progress, you progress during an incarnation. Of course, we are talking about here not only as spirits, so you talk about reincarnation, but you're talking about also the intelligent principle. We're going to see a lot more of that in the next law, the law of destruction. But progress also is happening at the level of intelligent principle. Even though you don't have the free will, you don't make choices, you don't acquire karmas for that matter, you're still progressing. And that's why even animals, we have that instinct of self-preservation. Even animals will try to be here as long as possible because they are under a evolutionary path, a progressive path that is designed for them. It was designed for us at one point. They didn't have a choice to go through. It's like being a baby. Mommy decides when you eat, mom decides what you dress, mom decides everything for you. You have no choice, right? And then eventually become a toddler, you can have a bit of choices. Become a teenager, hell breaks loose, and so forth and so on. Okay, any questions there?
Yes, Elmo, if you don't mind, I do have a question. Many years ago, Buddhist monks emulated themselves. In other words, they burned themselves to draw attention to war, which they probably felt very criminal. I'm wondering, is this prideful? Is this selfish? Probably karmic. I'm just wondering if you have any perspective of this action. Thank you.
Taken from the answers of the spirit, the question would be how useful was that burning of oneself? Did it help to eliminate or diminish the wars, the amount of wars? Did it brought anything useful to the community where they were? If the answer is yes, then yeah, that was a good self-burning. But I doubt that it brought any changes in the directions of the wars. So taken from the answer of the spirits, I'd say no, it's not a good thing to do. Is it a karma? I doubt if it's a karma. No one is reincarnated to go against the natural laws. One makes a choice to go against the natural laws. You have the Japanese kamikazes, going to destroying themselves in airplanes for the sake of the nation. Were they doing good? No, their cause of destruction was completely unnecessary. So my answer, following the studies that we are doing over here, is that it's contrary to divine laws. It's contrary to the law of preservation, since it does not produce any useful results for it. It doesn't produce anything of good.
Oh, thank you very much, Elmo. Thank you.
Now, when it comes to the Buddhists and the Boses over here, we have to make open a parenthesis over here for the exception to the rules. The very limited individuals who come here on a mission of some kind of self-sacrifice in which they isolate themselves and they vibrate to maintain the degree of equilibrium of the energies of earth. These are high order spirits who incarnate with that mission. They will not socialize much. They do perform a very important job of kind of neutralizing all the negative energies around the planet Earth. But this is an exception of the exception of the exception of the rules. We don't know who they are. We may have an idea. They know who they are, and they would not come out loud and say that is what they are doing. They are maintaining equilibrium of the energies of the earth, because at the high moral involvement that they have, they would be humbled enough not to declare themselves as such. Okay, so my point here is that if we, amongst individuals who choose to do this work of isolation, stay on top of a monastery, stay on a temple, and just stay on a contemplation, meditation 24/7, we don't know who they are. There is a 0.1% of them perhaps that are doing good, and the rest are doing it out of selfishness, trying to save themselves instead of working to help others.
Yeah, it was very interesting because I was quite young, but their actions in many ways were very profound for me for future studies. I didn't even understand why, but it was asking of me to go deeper to find out what was their motivation. And it was a very powerful action that I viewed, and it affected me. And I didn't know. I didn't have a thought about it per se. I didn't have this or that, or is it right, is it wrong? But I said, oh, I must study this. I must have a better, deeper understanding of this action. Anyway, that's that's my comment. But thank you very much, Elmo. Thank you.
Yeah, because this person, they should spend their time focused on doing good for their fellow human beings. They should clothe the naked, comfort those who cry, work for the disabled, and deprive themselves for the sake of the fortunate. And then their lives will be useful and pleasing to God. If the fact of burning themselves produce any of those things over here, then yes.
And maybe for the times it was needed, like lessons for those around the people who were doing this. But like the last sentence says, which are no longer appropriate for the time period in which we are living.
Yeah.
So right now, all of that is not needed.
So
But maybe during that time, it was needed.
good point, good point. Maybe at that period of time, there was a usefulness for the community by doing that. Again, if it produces anything good for the community, yes, go ahead and do it, if we're able to do it. But outside that, if not helping anyone, no reason for it. Paco, try to say something? No, okay. All right, so now we're going to start a new law, chapter 6, law of destruction. And I think it's a very important law for the days that we are having now. The first part, the necessary verse, the abusive destruction, not so much, but then we're going to get in the destructive scourges, wars, and then it will be very applicable to our days, and if has not been throughout the humankind, history of humankind, right? Let's read and try to really understand, break down what the Spirit is saying, 728 over here, and spend some time on it. Philip?
Is destruction a law of nature? Everything must be destroyed so that it may be renewed. What you call destruction is only a transformation to renew and improve living beings. So the instinct of destruction was given to living beings for the providential purposes. God's creatures are instruments used to accomplish divine plans. Living beings destroy each other for food, and this maintains a natural balance of reproduction, which could otherwise become excessive. Also, it utilizes the materials of their external envelopes. However, only this envelope is destroyed, which is only an accessory and not the essential part of a thinking being. The essential part is the intelligent principle, which is indestructible and developed over the course of many metamorphoses.
Okay. So we start with the word destruction that Kardec used and continue to use, and the spirits don't mind the usage of the word destruction. But you need to expand on this word beyond what first comes to mind, the backward destructions of buildings and things like that. I'll expand the destruction more in what the spirit says over here. Transformation to renew. You have your one little house, you and your wife and or your husband. And then the kids come, and now you have 2 or 3 kids, and the house now is too small, it's just one room, and you need to expand the house. The only way that you're going to expand the house is by causing destruction. You have to break a wall, you have to create another 2 rooms and make another bathroom. The only way that you're going to do that is pretty much destroying the little tiny house and to rebuild a bigger one, to expand a big one. You're gonna have to break walls, things. So in order to make it better, to transform something better, you have to cause some destruction. Okay? What you did, you transform something that was no longer appropriate for your family to something that was better for your family. There is a transformation, but in that transformation, you have to break down things. If you think in nature, as Lavoisier, the law Lavoisier, in nature, nothing is destroyed, everything is transformed, right? You have all the natural cataclysms, the hurricanes, the fires, the floods. They all bring renew. If you look in nature, they all bring renew. The fire is absolutely important to renew the fields. Once in the Yellowstone, they prevent fire to progress, and they eliminate all sorts of fires. When something happened, the fire, they would put it out immediately, until there was one time in the 50s that one fire broke in and they could not stop, and it was extremely destructive. And then they understood that the reason it was so extremely destructive is because they prevent the little ones to happen as they should happen naturally. And there was so much combustible things on that there because they did not allow it to burn, that when the fire started at that time, there was no stopping it. There was too much stuff to be burned, too much everything that you can think, and it was a tremendous calamity. And they learned a lesson. And the process of maintaining things in nature, it needs to have those degrees of destructions. We have beautiful canyons today, the destruction of valleys, water destroying things to create those valleys. There is erosions happening all the time, right? There is wind, there is glacial erosion, there is water erosion, and it's transforming the topography of the planet. There's destruction in it, okay? We are talking about here more of destruction of things in a natural way. And the spirits go on in that answer over here to tell us that we destroy one another to survive. A rabbit destroy a head of lettuce to survive. But then a wolf destroy a rabbit to survive. And what happens with that? We establish balance, we start equilibrium. Okay, the word stasis. So always think of that. In nature, we will maintain stasis. You must maintain equilibrium, right? At one point, again, if you go back to the Yellowstone, there was too many elks, there was too many herbivores, and it's been a problem. They decided I have to reintroduce the wolves that we humans took them all out. You almost pretty much made the wolves extincted from that region. And that was not good. There was a problem with that because there was an excess of herbivores. They have to reintroduce the wolves, and they watch it very carefully. And what they noticed that the herbivores' health increased tremendously. They studied specifically elks, and the elks that population before the wolves was very sick, was not what you would expect from them. Once they reintroduce the wolves, they become healthy again. They did studies with the carcass of with the bones of the elk that were killed by wolves, and what did they see? The bones was the very, very young, or the very, very old, or the sick. It was anemic. So what does it do? It keeps the elk population healthier. It maintains equilibrium. Usually, animals, let's say like rats. Rats is food for almost everything, right? Fruit in the field it seems to be the preferred and the easiest thing to get for animals to get and eat, right? And you see the reproduction rate of rats is extremely fast. And lots of them, and the cycle of reproduction is like extremely fast because they are rapidly consumed. To maintain the equilibrium, they have to reproduce, they have to replace it fast, right? The same thing does not happen with higher predators on the top of the pyramid. The reproduction rate is very slow. And even not predators, like an elephant, the reproduction rate of elephants is extremely slow. That's why they are in trouble.
19 months. Pregnancy, something like
It's
this.
it's something crazy, and it's very, very slow. And then the female will protect that baby for a long time before she will breed again. So it's very, very slow. It has to be, because if you have an excess of elephants, there will be no food in Africa. There will be no more trees standing. So there is an equilibrium in nature that is created by that. And the spirits mentioned over here, don't worry about it, because the only thing that is destroyed is the physical, the material element. However, only this envelope is destroyed. Because the transformation that you are concerned here, the progress that you are concerned here, is of the intelligent principle. And the intelligent principle cannot be destroyed. Like as a spirit, we are never destroyed. We are eternal in this progressive path. If you want to call destruction, once that intelligent principle transform itself into an individualized intelligent principle and a spirit, you want to say that the intelligent principle was destroyed, I would say it was transformed into individualized spirit. So you're following this progress, that transformation. But this again is applicable to matter, to the physical world where we are right now. We're going to go through destructions. We're going to feed from one another. We're going to become food for others. Others will become food for us. In this path, matter is being destroyed, is being transformed, is being renewed. Right now, we are breathing the death, right? If you are 6% water, once you die, that water will evaporate and going to go into the air. So right now, we are breathing some water that belongs to a physical body being destroyed, right? And all that is meant for the progress of the intelligent principle to eventually become a spirit, and then for the spirit to continue to progress until eventually reach the level of the Christs. Okay, any questions there? Because that's very important to understand this here.
Yeah, well, I might be kind of going away from the main topic here. But as I was studying Joanna de Angelis this afternoon, I connected the law of destruction when we kind of we do our self-transformation by destroying between quotes our vices, our inferior tendencies. So I somehow connect. I know that's not exactly what Kardec asks, not even answers from the spirit, but I made a kind of a connection, like our transformation is by destroying between quotes our bad habits, making into a good one.
Right.
Just because I was-
It's very good comparison. It's a good analogy. You can use the word a destruction of my vices, or can use the word transformation of my vices into virtues.
Yeah.
What was impatience, I transform into patience. You can use both words over here. Kardec used destruction most of the time. The spirits kind of say, in reality, it's transformation to renew. And that's what the spirit is doing in destroying vices or transforming vices into virtues.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Yeah, it's just because here they focus more on the animals and the.
Yeah, right now there's already.
Yeah. I
You
just
see
connected
here.
with our.
What you see here is the sequence that the Kardec follows, right? This law of destruction could not come before the law of preservation. And everything right now here is dealing more with things related to matter. Instinct is purely a material thing. It's good for our physical life here. And as they progress over here, each one of the laws, we're going to spiritualize more. You're gonna live from the matter, gonna get more into the moral aspects of it, gonna law of freedom, law of work, law of love, and everything ahead. Um, 29.
If destruction is necessary for the regeneration of beings, why does nature surround them with the means of self-preservation and conservation, so that their destruction only happens at the right time? Premature destruction delays the development of the intelligent principle. This is why God has given each being the desire to live and reproduce.
Okay. Again, going through the period of physical life that go repeated times here, in any stage as an intelligent principle, even as a spirit, we will go through a lot of challenges. That if we don't have something that is strong within us to put us to overcome those challenges, we would not progress because you would not have spent enough time here in the physicality to progress. Therefore, those instincts are extremely important. Look at an example, a gazelle in the field. If she sees a lion, she just gonna eat me anyway, just gonna stay here. Like, the gazelle would not learn ways of jump higher, to run faster, to become smarter, to be able to perceive the presence of the predator, of the lion at a farther distance, would not really evolve. So the next generations of gazelle would be better prepared to deal with the problems of trying to survive another day. The same way, the lion will think, oh, this gazelle is getting too smart. They are noticing my presence. They're gonna find a way to hide better. They're gonna have to, and this way, both gazelle and lion are progressing. They are finding ways to survive because the instinct is extremely important. If a gazelle don't find ways to run faster, jump higher than the lion, it's done. And if the lion doesn't look for ways to overcome the speed and the ability to jump off the gazelle, it will starve as well. So in this battle, both are progressing, and the instinct of preservation, the desire to preserve themselves, and more important and equally important, to perpetuate its own genetic line, generates progress. Because if it does not reproduce, then we don't have to worry about the next generation also. So those two things are extremely important for progress. One of the self-preservation. I want to stay here as long as I can, and I'm going to find ways to stay here as long as I can. That generate progress. And once I learned all the stuff, when I pass that to my next generation, to my genetic pool, that next generation will be a little bit better, a little bit wiser, a little better prepared, both the gazelle and the lion. Okay, any questions there?
I have a question. I don't know why I came up to my mind, but this question is that let's okay.
Which
So
question?
it says here delays. No, before by means of self-preservation and conservation. Okay, what happens to the suicide? What happens to the self-preservation and conservation of the person that dies by suicide? What happened to those what you call it, forces within the individual?
Okay, yeah, we talked that about, but that was when it did with instinct. The thing, Paco,
Uh-huh.
the instincts are there, okay?
Uh-huh.
Every living being has a instinct of self-preservation.
And conservation, yeah.
Yeah, but reason overpowers instinct.
Oh.
The individual will reason that my life's not worth it, or I already have this tumor, I only have 6 months, I'm just gonna shorten my life right now, or everything is bad. The individual, the reason overpower that instinct. And it's abnormal. It is against the natural for anyone
Process.
like that. It's not an abnormal process. I'm not gonna say over here that individual commits suicide is sick as meant as having any psychiatric anomaly. That's a different discussion, but it's going outside of the range of normal for human beings, because the normal is to have those instincts associated with reason to preserve life as long as possible. You see individuals, just as an example here, 89 years old, diabetic, lost vision because of diabetes, got a leg amputated because of diabetes. That has no control of the means of going to the bathroom. Somebody has to be cleaning them up. And then if you ask them, "Are you want to die?" No, I'm not going to live. Well, the normal is that. The norm is to want to continue over here on hemodialysis 3 times a week. It's not easy. Why don't you end this now?
And I think in the physical world, they're going for that. They want to end life as, you know, before it's time. So what would happen to that? If in the medical field now, they're thinking of that, like, you know, giving.
Euthanasia?
Yeah.
Euthanasia?
dying or-
Assisted dying, euthanasia.
So what's gonna happen to those people? That they don't live to the end, they cut it short. Is the reasoning behind it helpful for them when they get to heaven, or?
Well, in accordance to what the spirits tell us, this physical body is not ours. Okay, you have $1 in your pocket, $1 bill. To whom the $1 bill belongs? To the Treasury Department, right? Belongs to the government. The value of that paper is yours, but that paper is not yours. So that's why it's a crime for you write on the bill, to do things with the bill, because it's not yours. But the value of that is yours. You acquire that through labor. It's yours. This physical body is not ours. What we acquire with it is ours. What we learn, everything that we gain by being here using this instrument is ours. So according to the spirits, we don't have the right to damage this instrument. It is our responsibility to use, to preserve, to keep it in the best possible shape for as long as possible. Until the boss says, you're good enough, now I'll take this body back. And it's gonna go back to nature. So those who make those choices are making choice against the natural laws. And they have to deal with the consequences of it. Now, deal with the consequence of it, then it's relative for each case as a case, and may go to close to nothing to hell break loose 6 times in a row. It depends, right? But you are going against natural laws. Because again, we are here to progress. And each day is another opportunity for you to move up in that scale. And this instrument is something that we're borrowing according to our needs. You gotta go back to the boss. If you borrow a book from the library, you'll try to use it, learn everything that you can from it, but you're gonna give it back in the best possible shape. You're not gonna write on it, because, right? Otherwise you get in trouble there. Same thing here. This body is like a book that you took from the library, the one that you needed, the one that served you in accordance to your needs, that you want to use, and give it back in the best possible shape. So those involved in doing that themselves, or those participating in those euthanasia procedures, are going against natural laws, and they're going to have to deal with the consequences. And again, each case is a case. So the same goes for suicide. Does it make sense, Paco? Because indeed,
Yeah, you're saying it's a dissonance between that was given and the faculty of reasoning. There's a dissonance.
that's correct.
Yes.
That's correct. But we have instincts, but reason, and that's a big difference between us and animalia, is that reason overpowers instinct. That's why you can train special, Secret Service, that when everybody's running away from the bullets, they go towards the bullet to protect the president. It's completely against instinct.
Exactly.
Right? But with training, and reason, you are able to do it.
I see.
You'll also
Yes.
not be able to do without that proper training.
Yeah, that's so.
All right, it's 7:59. I'm going to stop here.
Why? Oh, it's 11 o'clock?
Yeah.
We continue next week. Carol, could you do your final prayer, please?
Certainly. Thank you very much, Elmo, for hosting for us tonight. Thank you, John. And also thank you, Philip, for reading for us this evening, and everybody who is here tonight. Thank you so much. Infinite Creator and Divine Providence, we give thanks to be together for our studies of the Spirit's Book, Chapter 5 and 6, Laws of Preservation and Laws of Destruction. Voluntary suffering is worthless when it is not useful to others. Doing good for fellow humans is charity in action. Suffering generates progress and elevates us if it is not selfish or prideful. Transformative destruction is a means of renewal and improvement for living beings. Destruction always occurs at the right time. So we do have instinct for self-preservation during the interim of our physical life. And we also have reasoning capabilities to assist us. We give thanks to the spiritual benefactors and the good spirits for guiding and inspiring us this evening. May we receive love, light, and peace of Christ within us and for our loved ones, our teachers, our directors, our counselors, our mediums, our workers, and all participants. We pray for inner peace, and especially now for world peace and for those who are suffering in the physical and spiritual worlds. We pray for our center, SGNY, and all Spiritist centers throughout the world, that they may grow, prosper, expand, and be protected throughout the day and throughout the night. As we close, we humbly ask for safety and protection as we return to our family, our friends, loved ones, and co-workers. And may we remind ourselves as we go forth now to be beings of love, of light, of peace, of service, and charity, which is love in action. May peace and love prevail. So be it.